And if you've caught my theme by now, with all of the guys, or the majority of the guys that I've reviewed so far in the top 10 sleeper category, they all have great stories. And this is another one. And I think you guys know why I'm attaching myself to some of these storylines. And it's all because of a certain general manager of a Detroit Lions team named Brad Holmes and what he looks for in the guys that he wants to bring to this team. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So Ruke is certainly not your typical football story, right? About the hometown player from some podunk nowhere, somewhere city in America, making it big, in high school, and then makes it big on the greatest stage on earth, which is the football field or the gridiron, the NFL, whatever you want to call it. Nope, not this guy. Nope, he hails from Lagos, Nigeria. He was born in 2001, where he lived until he was 9 years old. He's very proud of his roots, and he believes that the different perspective of living in such a unique country has made him a more well rounded individual today. He had this to say about the transition from Africa to America. He said, "When I was young and when I moved from Nigeria, but being from a different country has helped me as a man because it allowed me to have different perspectives on the world. It's important to have those kinds of perspectives to see how people live in other parts of the world." His family, then settled in Michigan, of all places. I didn't know this until today. He attended River Rogue High School, where he played basketball primarily. That was his only sport. And he stuck with basketball throughout his junior season. But then he decided to play football as a junior. And after his first season playing football, that led him to hanging up the basketball shoes for good. And he focused solely on football his senior season. And this is why, and this is what he had to say. Direct quote from Ruke. He says, "I realized that this was the sport for me when I had my first 2-sack game. That was when it all clicked. And I knew I could actually do this. At that point, I fell in love with football." He goes on to say, "I love the team aspect of football. I know basketball is also a team sport, but football is a sport where one guy can't win the game. You can't really play offense and defense at the same time. You have to play as a collective unit. 11 guys have to be on the same page for the offense, defense, and special teams." I think it's such a great statement by him because you guys know me by now. I speak to what's called the hive defense. And I guess, I could interject that into the offense somehow and find a unique, word to use to describe how you need to work together as an offensive unit. But it's really no different, whether it's a hive defense or a hive offense. You have to work together. And the biggest component to the Detroit Lions and how they're winning is unselfishness and playing together. They're not worried, about racking up all the tackles or racking up all the sacks or, whatever individual stats are out there. They just want to win the game collectively together. And this guy sees it, understands it, and recognizes the importance of it. So mind, the fact that he had quite the conventional path to the game. I mean, the game still found him, right? Which is incredible. This kind of immediately reminds me of Ezekiel Anza, a player with raw, natural, rare talent that quite honestly was untapped until later on in his high school years. And now he's ready to enter the NFL after a very impressive college career at Clemson. But he had to go through a transition. And it was one from defensive end in high school to defensive tackle at the next level. And it was this type of attitude and what he says next that just absolutely screams Brad Holmes kind of guy. Here's what he said. "I was recruited to play defensive end, and then I moved over to defensive tackle. I thought it would be an easy transition, but it wasn't. The physicality and the speed were different. You're closer to the ball, so everything happens so fast. That was when I really knew I wasn't in high school anymore. Not Kansas anymore, right? Click those heels, buddy." He goes on to say that the biggest part for me was shifting my mindset because I knew the physical aspect would come with hard work. I mean, is that not just everything you want in a young athlete? That kind of mindset? that, hey, this isn't easy. I know it's not easy. My back's up against it right now. I'm getting my butt kicked, maybe, but I got it. It's okay. I just got to work harder. A lot of people don't think that way in life. They take the easy route, right? They don't take the hard route. You know, me for one, I seem to take brick walls head on. I don't know why. I just do. But this is the kind of athlete, this is the kind of person, the kind of player, the teammate that belongs in Detroit. You know, somebody that wants to work hard for what they, achieve in life. And, to quote Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, they got to earn it. And that's what Ruke has done. So let's talk about some of his accomplishments and what happened at Clemson. So in 2023, he did have off-season shoulder injury. Off-season shoulder surgery. He did miss the spring practice, but then he played just fine. In 2020, so 3 years prior to that, he did have a meniscus surgery and missed 8 games. Am I worried about the injuries? Not really. Shoulders are kind of tough because they take so long to heal up. I mean, we just saw what happened with CJ Gardner Johnson with a torn pec. I mean, shoulders are kind of in the same boat. They're very tough to come back from, but he did, and he didn't re-injure it, and he should be stronger now because of it. The meniscus having an issue, almost 4 years ago. I'm not really worried about it. He's obviously fully healed, so I'm not worried on the injury front. Let's just put it that way. When you talk about the rankings and kind of where he is right now, he is ranked as the 33rd best defensive tackle and 121 overall by PFF. I think it's way off, personally. So they have him slotted somewhere between a very late third and a mid to late fourth round, with the potential to get plucked early based on the draft is kind of what I'm looking at right now is how well is he going to do in the combine. So for him to get plucked early, he's going to have a really good combine, at least according to these, rankings right now. Now, I don't put all my weight, into the rankings. I just don't do that. Personally, when I watch his tape and I compare him to all the other guys that I've watched so far, I have him as a high level backup to start, a potential starter on the right team until the combine, as I always say, because the combine is going to prove something different about this guy. Good or bad, it always does. So I'd agree that he should be somewhere, right now in the third round. But I have a hard time putting him in the fourth right now. He's really going to have a bad combine to slip, I think, that far. So we'll see what happens. There's going to have to be something really off on his medical or something else, I believe, for this guy to slip that far. He does show some great flashes of dominance, though. Quite honestly, it would make any scout jump for joy, especially with his limited playing experience. I mean, how do you get a guy that only played 2 years in high school, a few seasons in college, and he's this good? He does fit perfectly into a defense that doesn't run, a lot of double gap responsibility. What do the Lions run? Gap and a half. We don't run a double. We used to run the single gap. Now we run a gap and a half. So he's kind of right in between being a fit and not being a fit. I mean, right smack dab in the middle, to be honest with you. Like I said, the Lions run a gap and a half. So he's kind of on the edge, as a fit for me. But being a fit and being a ball player, two different things. Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell will find a way to put good players, good people on the field if they go out and earn it. We know that. But as a ball player, I just love this guy's raw athletic ability and his ceiling that he has yet to even come anywhere close to. So he's nowhere near where he's going to end up being in short order. Very heavy hands, controls the offensive line with ease. He's got the arm length. He's over 33 inches right now. We'll see what the combine says. And lower leg power is off the charts. So overall, here's how I feel about the guy. He fits the description of a high ceiling draft prospect to a T, meaning he's got a lot of work to do to really see his potential. And that's why I think he's going to come in as a really great backup no matter what team, he ends up on. His combination, though, of strength, athleticism, it's very evident on film. He's still relatively new to the game, having grown up in Nigeria, for 9 years of his life before moving to Michigan. He was always a basketball player. So before, really hitting the gridiron and getting a taste, of what it was like, until his junior season in high school, he didn't really have any experience with football. Football over there was soccer. So is that a knock on him? Maybe. But then again, he just played at Clemson. So you're going to learn just about anything you need to know about the game at Clemson. I mean, they do run very similar schemes and styles, that a pro defense does run. So positives, a lot of positives. Good blend of size, strength, and athleticism. He's very tall, solid frame with adequate length and strength. And even throughout college, though, he lost some excessive weight and firmed up his body big time, which shows his dedication to himself and the game as an athlete. Guys that are committed to getting better, which he is, and he even stated as much. It shows a different side of you when you're willing to go in and cut the weight, firm up the body, and do the things that you have to do independently to get better on the field, to play better, and become a better teammate. Is what it's all about. Very impressive get off the line. I mean, snappy, twitchy, very quick, good acceleration off the line. Um, he does penetrate well into the backfield. I mean, he's really a disruptor. Just about anywhere you put him, he's making someone pay for it, right? You guys will see the tape. So there's going to be some links below in the description. I'm done putting up highlights for right now. I can't stand this YouTube thing that's going on here with AOS Sports, AOS Digital Sports, whoever the heck they are, trying to claim NC2AA tape. So he takes on blocks with good leverage. He has upper body strength to get extension against offensive linemen. And quite honestly, his power is so effective that it really snaps these offensive linemen's heads back at the point of contact. So you can tell that he's putting everything that he has into that first pop and trying to move beyond, but he's trying to move through these offensive linemen. Remember what I said about brick walls earlier? How I always seem to take them on? I mean, this guy's ready to go through any wall to get to the ball carrier. Very hard to move, one-on-one blocks. He's very much a very powerful lower body and playing with very impressive leverage to beat these one-on-ones. He seems to get his body into the right position, so that he doesn't get overpowered. He doesn't lean to one side and get off balance. And I believe that his lower body strength also, really helps to keep him upright. He's rarely ever on the ground, rarely ever falls. Displays very good balance, which may be something that he developed during his high school wrestling days. So not only did he play a little bit of basketball, but he also wrestled throughout high school. So you combine those two together. One, you're running up and down a court, you're getting conditioning, and then wrestling, man, that really plays on a whole bunch of different muscle groups within the body. But learning balance is one of them. As a pass rusher, though, very impressive bull rusher, very good hand placement, leverage underneath, like I said, to get underneath the pads, pop, drive, and he helps collapse the pocket with ease. At the point of attack, though, as a run defender, he does show remarkable instincts to get off the blocks, locate the ball carrier, and then get down the line to bottle up the ball carrier. He's working one way, whether it's lateral or north and south. He's working, and he's always got his eyes in the backfield trying to follow the ball carrier so he can make a play. He can definitely make plays while he's engaged. Like I said, he's got a long frame, he's got long arms, and he utilizes that length to his advantage. He only has a few flaws in the run game, to be honest with you. And I'm sure that, other scouts will point others out. They've been there watching the guy in person. I didn't have that luxury, but I can only see what's on the tape. And quite honestly, he takes on blocks with very good leverage, like I mentioned earlier. He definitely has the upper body strength and length to not only control the block, but it's his agility that allows him to avoid getting reached. And what I mean by that is when he extends and he gets up into the offensive lineman, he's keeping them away at a distance so that they can't, get their hands on him and force him to go one way or the other. He's able to get long in a hurry and then uses his lower body to extend and get around or through and utilizes that bull rush quite nicely to push these offensive linemen back into the ball carrier. And you'll notice that in a lot of the highlights, maybe he doesn't get the tackle, but he's affecting the play just by pushing these guys back, which it's going to be a little bit tougher to do at the next level because you're going up against top tier offensive linemen. But the way this guy, really takes pride in his body and wanting to get stronger and leaner, I don't think it's going to be an issue for him. You give him one season in an NFL program, and he's probably going to bulk up quite nicely. He just needs to work on getting off of those blocks, though, to increase his production, which means instead of giving up the tackle to somebody else, he could probably get the tackle if he could just get off the blocks a little bit easier. It's almost like he uses the offensive lineman like a battering ram. I don't know if that makes sense, but instead of getting off the block to get after the ball carrier, he's just pushing, the offensive lineman back into somebody, which bottles up the play. But it's definitely a good foundation, for him. I believe that those little things will come. He is a little bit more limited though as a pass rusher. I didn't see a ton of technique here. He has a decent bull rush that should translate to the NFL, but it does need to develop into another move. He needs to have at least 2 or 3 moves, entering his first NFL season, which he's going to have to work hard on in the offseason. A big reason for that, is he's still learning to use his hands. He's still learning the game. And things, incrementally will get more difficult and he'll get more things thrown at him as he, elevates his game. But he did spend some time working on this before the last season at Clemson. And to that end, Ruke did much better at hand placement and using his hands more violently after contact as the season went on. So it's there, right? Like if he goes and works on something, he gets better at it, and that's all you can really ask from any young prospect. But in this case, it's like he takes it to the next level. He knows that he needs to get better at something. He'll focus on something, but he'll take it to the next level, and he wants to be the best at it, and he'll do whatever he can, based on what I've read and what I've seen, to be the best athlete he can. So between his athleticism, the growth that's still needed, and being a Clemson product, I mean, I don't know why he wouldn't become a pretty solid pass rusher in the NFL. But right now, I see him schematically being, very versatile. He could play the 4-eye to the 5 technique in odd man fronts, but he's a 3-man technique right now. I'm sorry, he's a 3 technique right now in even fronts. And look, he may need to add a few more pounds to stay at as a 3 technique, but that also fits what the Lions use in the 4-3 scheme. So another B gapper. He is somebody that will develop nicely with time. I love the kid's story, and he clearly has the mindset to be the best at what he does. And that's exactly what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are looking for. But look, if he doesn't end up a Detroit Lion, I promise you, this guy's going to have a great career, and it won't take very long to see it come to fruition. We see some of these, 4th, 5th, 6th round guys just turn out to be absolute studs in the NFL. So who's it going to be this season? There's always one in every later round that ends up, kind of showing the rest of the class like, you screwed up. But that's not going to be Ruke, and that's not going to be the Detroit Lions, because Brad Holmes is going to get it right. I look forward to seeing Orhorhoro's combine here next week. And that's all for this episode of Top 10 Sleepers and the Clemson product, Ruke Orhorhoro. All right, y'all, take care. Go on Pride, go Detroit Lions. Until the next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.